The quiet power in the room. Have you ever been in a meeting, a dinner party, or a casual gathering and noticed that one person who doesn't say much? They're not shy or disengaged. They're simply watching, listening, and absorbing everything around them. While others compete for attention with their words, this person sits back, observes, and somehow seems to understand the room better than anyone else. Most people overlook them. They assume silence means weakness or lack of confidence. But what if I told you that these quiet observers possess a hidden advantage that talkers rarely develop? An advantage that psychologists have studied for decades, and one that some of the most successful leaders, thinkers, and strategists share. In a world that rewards loudness and celebrates extroversion, we've forgotten the profound power of observation. Today, we're going to explore why people who observe more than they speak often see what others miss, understand what others overlook, and ultimately make better decisions. By the end of this video, you might start to see the quiet people in your life very differently. The science behind observational intelligence. Let's start with what's happening in the brain of someone who chooses to observe rather than immediately react or speak. Neuroscience reveals something fascinating. When we're talking, our brain is primarily engaged in formulating thoughts, finding the right words, and monitoring our own performance. It's an internally focused activity. But when we're observing, something completely different happens. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for processing complex information and social cues, becomes highly active. We're essentially giving our brain the space to analyze patterns, read body language, detect inconsistencies, and build a comprehensive understanding of the situation. Research in cognitive psychology shows that people who practice active observation develop stronger pattern recognition skills. They notice subtle changes in tone, facial expressions, and group dynamics that talkers miss because they're too focused on their next point. This creates what psychologists call situational awareness, an ability to understand the bigger picture while others are caught up in the details of their own narratives. Think of it this way: if conversation is like being on stage performing, observation is like being in the director's chair, seeing the entire production unfold. Both roles are valuable, but only one gives you the complete view. And here's the fascinating part: this advantage compounds over time, because observers are constantly learning while others are simply repeating what they already know. Emotional intelligence and the observer's edge. Now, let's talk about something that separates good decision-makers from great ones: emotional intelligence. And this is where observers truly shine. When you're not busy talking, you're reading the room in ways that most people never develop. Emotional intelligence consists of several components, but one of the most critical is empathy, the ability to understand what others are feeling. Observers naturally develop this skill because they're paying attention to the nonverbal communication that makes up more than 70% of human interaction. They notice when someone's words don't match their body language, when a smile doesn't reach the eyes, or when enthusiasm feels forced. Consider a workplace scenario. During a team discussion, most people are focused on making their point heard, proving their value, or defending their position. But the observer notices something everyone else misses. The team leader keeps glancing at one particular colleague before making decisions, suggesting that person has more influence than their job title indicates. Or they notice that when a certain topic comes up, the energy in the room shifts, revealing an underlying tension that nobody's addressing directly. This emotional data is incredibly valuable. It helps observers navigate social situations with precision, build stronger relationships, and avoid conflicts that others walk straight into. They understand that what people say is often just the surface level, and the real truth lies in how they say it, when they say it, and what they don't say at all. The strategic advantage in relationships and career. Let's explore how this observational ability translates into real-world advantages, particularly in relationships and career advancement. In personal relationships, people who observe more than they speak tend to be better partners, friends, and family members. Why? Because they're actually listening to understand, not just waiting for their turn to talk. They remember the small details that matter: a friend's concern about their aging parent, a partner's stress about an upcoming presentation, a colleague's mention of a personal project. While others are broadcasting their own stories, observers are collecting valuable information that allows them to provide meaningful support, ask thoughtful questions, and show genuine care at the right moments. In professional settings, this advantage becomes even more pronounced. Think about negotiations. The person who talks more often reveals more, their priorities, their concerns, their limits. But the observer strategically withholds information while gathering intelligence. They let others fill the silence, and in doing so, people often reveal far more than they intended. Leaders who are strong observers build more effective teams because they understand each member's strengths, motivations, and potential friction points before problems arise. They can position people strategically, mediate conflicts with insight, and make decisions based on comprehensive understanding rather than surface-level impressions. This isn't manipulation, it's wisdom. It's understanding human nature deeply enough to create better outcomes for everyone involved. The pitfalls that talkers fall into. To truly appreciate the observer's advantage, we need to understand what excessive talking costs us. And the costs are higher than most people realize. First, there's the cognitive burden. When you're constantly talking, your brain is in output mode, which means you're not in learning mode. You're essentially running on autopilot, recycling existing thoughts and opinions without updating them with new information. This creates what psychologists call confirmation bias on steroids. Talkers often seek conversations where they can express their views rather than challenge them. They interpret new information through the lens of what they already believe because they never give themselves the mental space to truly consider alternative perspectives. There's also a social cost that frequent talkers don't recognize. While they feel they're making a strong impression, they're often actually diminishing their influence. People tune out those who dominate conversations. They become predictable, and predictable voices carry less weight. Meanwhile, when an observer finally does speak, people lean in. Their words carry more weight precisely because they're rare and typically well considered. Perhaps most damaging is the missed opportunity cost. Every moment spent talking is a moment not spent learning. Observers are constantly expanding their understanding of the world, people, and situations, while talkers are stuck broadcasting the same information repeatedly. Over time, this gap in understanding becomes enormous. Developing your observational skills. If you're recognizing that you might be more of a talker than an observer, here's the good news: observation is a skill you can develop. It starts with intentional practice. The next time you're in a group conversation, try this experiment. Instead of thinking about what you'll say next, focus entirely on understanding what others are communicating. Pay attention to more than just their words. Notice their tone, pace, and energy level. Watch their body language. Are they leaning in or pulling back? Are their gestures open or closed? Do their facial expressions match their words? You'll be amazed at how much information you've been missing. Another powerful technique is the strategic pause. Before responding in any conversation, count to 3 in your head. This simple act forces you to shift from reactive mode to reflective mode. It gives your brain time to process what was actually said rather than just firing back with a prepared response. Often, that 3-second pause will reveal that what you were about to say isn't as relevant or necessary as you thought. Practice asking questions that go deeper. Instead of sharing your own experience immediately, ask follow-up questions that help you understand the other person's perspective more fully. What made you feel that way? How did that change things for you? What happened next? These questions keep you in observation mode while making the other person feel truly heard, which strengthens the relationship. The balance between observation and participation. Now, here's an important nuance. The goal isn't to become completely silent or to withdraw from participation. The most effective communicators aren't pure observers or pure talkers, they're people who have mastered the balance. They know when to observe and when to speak, and their contributions are powerful precisely because they come from a place of deep understanding. Think of it like a musician in a band. The best musicians aren't playing constantly, they're listening to the other instruments, feeling the rhythm, understanding the overall sound, and then adding their part at exactly the right moment to enhance the whole. This is the skill we're developing, knowing when your voice adds value and when your silence serves you better. There are times when speaking up is absolutely necessary, when you have unique information that others need, when someone is being mistreated and needs an advocate, when a decision is being made based on incomplete understanding that you can address, or when authentic connection requires vulnerability and sharing. The observer's advantage doesn't mean being passive, it means being strategic. The key difference is this: when observers do speak, they speak with purpose and insight. They've done the homework of understanding the context, reading the room, and considering their impact. Their contributions tend to move conversations forward rather than just adding noise. They've earned their voice through the respect and understanding they've demonstrated by listening first. The hidden advantage revealed. So what is this hidden advantage that observers possess? It's not just one thing, it's a compound benefit that touches every area of life. Observers develop superior judgment because they base decisions on comprehensive understanding rather than limited perspective. They build deeper relationships because people feel truly seen and heard in their presence. They avoid unnecessary conflicts because they sense tension before it erupts. They identify opportunities that others miss because they're paying attention while others are distracted by their own voices. Perhaps most importantly, observers accumulate wisdom. Wisdom isn't about knowing a lot of facts or having strong opinions, it's about understanding how things work, how people work, and how to navigate complexity with grace. This kind of wisdom can't be gained by talking. It can only be developed through careful, consistent observation over time. In a world that's become increasingly noisy, where everyone is fighting to be heard, the ability to observe has become rarer and therefore more valuable. The people who master this skill stand out not because they're the loudest, but because they're the most insightful. They see what others miss, understand what others overlook, and navigate life with a clarity that seems almost effortless. The next time you find yourself in a conversation, meeting, or social gathering, remember this: you have a choice. You can add to the noise, or you can step back, observe, and understand. You can compete for airtime, or you can gain real insight. You can be immediately heard, or you can be ultimately respected. The quiet power of observation is available to anyone willing to practice it. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this advantage is that it makes you not just more successful, but more connected. Because when you truly observe people, when you really see them, they feel it. And that kind of attention, that genuine presence, is one of the greatest gifts you can offer in a world where everyone is desperate to be understood. The hidden advantage of people who observe more than they speak is ultimately this: they understand life at a deeper level. While others are busy performing, observers are learning. While others are defending their positions, observers are expanding their perspective. While others are talking about change, observers are quietly transforming. This doesn't mean silence is always golden, or that we should all become wallflowers. It means that in a culture obsessed with expression, we've undervalued comprehension. We've forgotten that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply pay attention. So here's my challenge to you: for the next week, experiment with being an observer. In your conversations, focus more on understanding than on responding. Notice what you learn. Notice how people respond to you differently when they feel genuinely heard. Notice the details you've been missing while you were busy talking. You might discover that the quiet people around you aren't passive, they're powerful. And you might find that by speaking less and observing more, you don't lose your voice, you find it. Because when you finally do speak, you'll have something truly worth saying. If this perspective resonated with you, consider how else psychology shapes our daily interactions in ways we rarely notice. Next time, we'll explore another hidden pattern that influences how we connect, decide, and live. Until then, keep watching, keep learning, and remember, sometimes the most intelligent thing in the room is the person who's simply paying attention.